you have to allow yourself to enjoy your own work, because if you're not creating to make you happy, who the hell are you doing it for? Hi guys, welcome back to 𝐂𝐚𝐫𝐲, the way of the artist. This is myself, Adrian, and Chris.
Good evening.
We get into the sometimes fun, sometimes mundane, sometimes interesting, hopefully, details of being full-time artists in different mediums. I'm coming at it from a more traditional point of view, and Chris is coming at it from the digital 3D side, and we kind of aim to meet in the middle and discuss various details of being self-employed, freelance, and everything that comes with that. So thank you for listening.
Hello, good evening. I think, today we wanted to talk a little bit about some of the negative points of our daily artist life when it comes to stuff like burnout or creative blocks, imposter syndrome, all these kind of darker sides to this lifestyle. Maybe. Yeah,
definitely. And hopefully how to roll with that as well. How to recognize the signs and maybe get around the other side of it.
Yeah, maybe offer some alternatives or like some ways to rectify it a little bit.
Well, I'm sure we'll have tips of things that we've picked up that work for us that, maybe people can kind of recognize and maybe fit to their lifestyle and hopefully take something from that.
Yeah, I hope so too. I think we both had our share of that kind of stuff over the past, decade maybe, or even longer for me a little bit. It was funny when I suggested the topic today. You were saying that it's a good fit because you feel like that a little bit at the moment, like the burnout knocking on the door. And I replied with the same thing. Like I feel it a little bit as well currently. So I guess it's a good timing to talk about it a bit.
I think we're both ready to vent. For me, it creeps up every kind of 2 or 3 months. And in the past, I would really struggle with it. And like I've just said, I wouldn't really know how to recognize the signs or what I needed to put into place to start to fix it. So I did have a couple of tricky years. But as with anything, as you go through it, you kind of pick up what works, what doesn't work. And I also learned that I didn't realize that it could be that common for someone, and maybe it's more common for others, but I always assumed it was like maybe once a year people just get burnt out or anything. But I imagine everyone's a bit different. And I also learned that there's different kind of levels of burnout as well. You can kind of let it get too far and then it becomes kind of really quite unhealthy.
It's turning into that kind of downward spiral if it's really untended to. And I've had a couple of these myself over the years, some worse, some less bad. And at some point, I think you learn how to, as you said, recognize the sign early, and also you learn how to deal with certain moments. And even if there is no kind of solution or whatever way to stay completely free of it in nowadays environment, especially as an artist. But I guess for most people really that are a big part of modern society, it's really something that comes along at some point, unless you're like luckily born with a very uncaring mind, but or like
I think it comes with a
very detached mind.
It's a very human thing, which I think a lot of people don't, because not everyone's using their creative brain in this way every single day. I don't want to say it's a unique feeling, but it's definitely quite a, how can I put it? It's not a feeling you're going to feel like quite regularly in life. So it does take a lot of learning, like, and recognizing the repeating patterns.
Mm-hmm.
But also, where was I going? I had a point I was going to travel with that. Then I've lost my train of thought now.
So early on. Last time it happened to me.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it happens. But what I was going to say is a lot of people probably think, I might be wrong on it, but I'm pretty sure I'm not. A lot of people outside the artist world tend to think that it's an easy life, and artists are usually free of that kind of stuff because, you know, because of all the freedom we have. Like, we can basically do with our days whatever we feel like, and if we don't feel like working, maybe here and there we actually do have the option of just not getting out of bed in the morning if we don't want to, stuff like that. Or we generally can decide on our own how much we're gonna work on in one day, how many hours in one go, stuff like that. I think that gives people sometimes the wrong impression of there is no reason for people like us to experience burnout like everybody else, or like feeling overwhelmed by things, or like losing direction, feeling lost in certain stuff, in some stuff. I think artists are really not free of that kind of stuff, and it's definitely something that I've been asked that a couple of times, how I can feel so overwhelmed with stuff if I'm really just my own boss and I can do whatever I want, basically. That's not like the ticket to having a problem-less life, really. Not at all. I mean, it can really be the opposite, actually.
Yeah, definitely. It comes with the responsibility of creating and managing your own schedule, taking care of many admin details that in other jobs other people are dedicated to that job to do, and that falls on us. And it's I don't feel like it's as much to do with having the free time. It's about how we're using our time. And like you say, yeah, we don't have to be up at 5, 6 in the morning to get to work at 7 o'clock, whatever. But we know those hours that we are more relaxed with, we will make up for those hours in another way.
For example, by working 7 days a week like I do, and I'm pretty sure you do as well. So yeah, that's
I try not to, but sometimes it happens. Yeah, definitely. Or being like, I think we've discussed it before, like working later in the day, even in the evening through the night. We kind of make up for it in them kind of spaces, and it's the details that people don't see, which they can often kind of just assume that we're not doing anything or whatever, that we finish at 5 o'clock and that's it. We just kind of, do a
little bit of drawing and then you're done with the day and you got no sorrows and no pressure and nothing at all.
That's it.
None of that stuff.
But in reality, for me, when I stop working, I'm still drawing because that's the part that's for me, and if I wasn't getting paid for it, I'd still be doing it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, me too.
All those details to kind of get up to, being paid for that end result. It does take a lot of work and it takes a lot of momentum and a lot of mental energy.
Yeah, especially the mental energy, really.
Yeah, but I feel like I kind of like that it does. When it all comes together well, I feel like it's worth it.
It's the best feeling, but also it can be the worst if it doesn't. Like, if you feel like you're working into a void when nothing seems to be working, where it's just like you run into a wall every other day, and stuff isn't going where you want it to, and you feel like sometimes I feel like my skills are just fucking crap, and yeah, you can't do the stuff that you had in mind. Like you don't know how to get there. And especially with 3D, it's sometimes I have moments where I feel like I've been doing this for 5 days or so because I have no clue what I'm doing. And even though I've been doing it for the last 5 years, and moments like that can be really difficult for me sometimes. And also, apart from the hours I spend, which I would say easily around 7 to 9 hours a day, every day. It as you said before, after those hours, it doesn't just shut down. Like this whole world keeps moving inside your mind, and it's tough to get away from it if you really want to.
Yeah, it can be. It's definitely a conscious effort to kind of try and switch off. But just in relation to not feeling comfortable with where you're at now, I try and use the exercise of kind of imagine the 5 years ago you, seeing where you are now, kind of what you've learned. And because the progress is over years.
Oh, it's immense,
it's
of
not
course.
Always noticeable. Yeah.
But if you look at it, if you compare the works directly, of course, the difference is immense. But still,
and yourself again in 10 years, you'll look back now. It's definitely.
I just I just remember that meme with a cat that looks like really dramatically and really evil in like a very dark room. It looks down from above and it says like the word pathetic. And on top it says like me looking at my art from last year or something, which is so accurate, really. I feel that every time, like not every time I look at my old stuff, but sometimes. Good. And it's so accurate.
That's exactly as it should be, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You should aim for every piece you work on to be some level of improvement to your last one, even if it's something that no one will ever see, even if it's how you approached a certain part of the process. If you know that you can improve that little detail every time, if it might only be one with each piece, or it might be a few with each piece.
Yeah.
If you can stack those up over 10 pieces of work, you've instantly improved.
Absolutely.
Not instantly, that's the wrong word. You've continuously improved, whether it's in a small way or a great way. And then that's the moment when you look back at old work and you think, oh, I don't do that way anymore.
Yeah.
There's a reason why, and I can see it in this work.
Yeah, so good point.
It's not easy. I'm certainly not saying it's easy, but once you kind of start to recognize how your brain kind of puts it all together, you can start to notice these things, and it does help. I'm not saying it takes it away. It definitely doesn't, but it does help. And I think with how we work in the modern day, as in having our work online as so accessible after it's uploaded. Like, again, I've mentioned it before in one of the other episodes about the Facebook memories. I've got one for my work page, and that pops up with old work. Yeah. And I get that exact same thought of, oh my God, like who created that? I never did that. And obviously I did. And that was me in that moment. And the work I'm creating now is me in this moment. And I'm sure I'll look back at the work I'm doing today, and have the same thought. But to me, that's the perfect way of working. If we woke up and we were like totally comfortable and we were at absolute maximum talent and we could go nowhere from there, then we'd just stop. We'd shut down. There'd be nothing to do. Yeah,
I agree. And to the widest part. But also I have to say, that too much of the self-criticism can be a pain in the ass, and it's not always helpful. Of course, like you have to know where the balance is really, and just
100%.
Keeping to knock yourself down all the time because you're not born as a master in whatever you're doing. There's no point to that either. You have to know where the fine balance is between criticism that is helpful and constructive and where it just turns down into self-hatred, basically.
Yeah, definitely. You have to allow yourself to enjoy your own work, because if you're not creating to make you happy, who the hell are you doing it for?
Yeah, exactly. That's a very good point.
It's
and especially you
definitely
definitely shouldn't do it for Instagram or Facebook or social media or like exposure and all that kind of shit. The first person you should do it for is you.
Yeah, absolutely. And that doesn't mean every piece will look perfect to you. It doesn't mean, or hopefully it doesn't mean every piece looks awful to you, because you've essentially aimed to deliver a product back to yourself. It's a mirrored reflection. So there's going to be parts of it that you don't like. There's going to be ideally parts you do like. And then it's about finding that balance, aiming towards rectifying the parts that you're not keen on, things that you feel you can improve.
Mm-hmm.
And then leaning into the parts that you do enjoy. And those are the parts that make your work you. And those are often the reasons why you do it.
And why you keep coming back to it, especially.
Exactly. And if you get to the end of like an arduous project or a large piece of work or whatever, and you feel physically, mentally exhausted or anything like that, chances are you're still going to start a new piece regardless. And there's a reason, no creatives just create one piece and then decide if they're happy, I'll carry on. No, it's a constant pull and a draw that you just roll with,
I just remembered when I finished the video clips for 𝐂𝐚𝐫𝐯 yesteryear. Exactly. That's. I mean, it is a word, but it's a very old English word, I guess. But let's just use it still. So then, yesteryear, I've worked on those 2 video clips for 𝐂𝐚𝐫𝐯, and after that, I was so fucking. I mean, after the whole album release last year, which was like pretty much consuming my whole year. And I was really done with everything band-wise, and I just, I needed a break, and exactly in that time frame when I actually wanted to grant myself a bigger break for the first time in years, which was around the January area. A friend of mine from a Belgian band asked me to do a video clip for their band, and I was pretty much given the choice of doing something rather simple, like just a collage basically out of stock footage, like drone shots of nature and stuff like that, or do a full-blown 3D video. The budget was the same. It was rather small for the work, and
two very different projects as well.
Yeah, of course. And one would have taken me maybe 2 weeks. The other one would take me 1.5 months. And obviously, which one I went for.
I'm guessing you went for the quicker one.
No, of course not. Of course not. I went for the same thing I worked at for like 4.5 months last year. And
so do you kind of mentally like push the time frame to one side and weigh up which project you were drawn to the most?
Well, I've made the decision deep down. I've made the decision in the very moment where I was given the choice. I just didn't realize it yet. And
okay.
And I've learned so much though, just because last year on the other ones, I started at 0 with a completely new software. I didn't really work before. Like I've done like very basic stuff 3 times or so beforehand, and I just jumped into the cold water and had no clue what I'm doing. And
sometimes that's the best way, though, I think.
But it's so daunting and so overwhelming in that moment. But I knew like I can't do this. I just have to pull myself together once more. And
you'll get more lessons from that than choosing the quick, easy one.
Exactly. And it opened up so much more than I thought it would. And now the funny part was where I was going with this. As soon as I started to work on the new one this year, I discovered that I went like down a really bad render setting route, which cost the rendering of the old ones I did last year like 5 times longer than it actually would have needed to, with looking the same, like with no difference. It's just a render setting issue. And once I discovered that, like, you can imagine how I felt. Like I could have easily cut down, like, I don't know, maybe 1.5 months of render time on the last 2 I did. But it felt so good having done that, having taken that step, and then having learned this very little fucking piece of information that cost me like 5 minutes of watching the right tutorial. And
yeah.
It changed the whole workflow, and it made it so much more accessible and so much easier. So I really felt like, fuck, that's just the prime example of learning skills while you're doing it, while you're doing any craft. Like, you're getting better if you notice it or not. Like, there's gonna be huge steps or like smaller steps sometimes, and they're gonna be so much, like, they're gonna be worth so much in the long haul, because it makes things so much easier. And I that's just why I brought this up. It's such a good example of why it's worth diving into new stuff, learning new things, and keep at it, and do it with 𝐶𝐿.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a lesson in being open to the whole process, because I've had some projects in the past where the brief is explained and the amount of work is explained, and I've tried to kind of mentally figure out how much work that's going to be and what I'd do, and what I'd literally spend 10 minutes trying to sketch it all out in my head until I realized that's just not how things work. And in the end, I was just like, okay, I like the band, I like the brief, the commission fee is fine, everything. I was like, okay, those are the only details I need. So let's get that booked in, and then I'll figure out the details when it comes to it, rather than trying to like think ahead or worry about this, the other, anything that could come up, because chances are it probably won't. But anything that does come up, you're going to learn from.
Exactly.
It took me a couple of projects to kind of get in the flow of that, but that was a big lesson for me in terms of like feeling like I was overthinking it straight away. I apply that to my own work as well. Like we were saying in one of the other episodes about having the initial idea that kind of gets you started on a piece, and then a lot of the time it looks completely different or ends up looking like something totally different. And again, it's being open to that whole process. That idea just got you to the desk, and then everything after that you have to be open to.
I think, sometimes it's just worth doing something just for the sake of it, even if you don't feel like it, and even if you have no clue where it's going to go, if you don't know how you feel about it. Sometimes
just getting an idea out and then not doing anything with it is helpful.
Yeah, that can also be a way, I think, to kind of find a bridge over certain moments of creative block. I felt like every time I experience that kind of thing, it kind of helps to just start something without any clue necessarily, or without any direction, just for myself, just to see where it goes, maybe try something I haven't touched before. Just to bring a little bit of freshness into the whole feel, into your whole mental world and your whole creativity. I think that sometimes helps to really just focus your mind on something different, rather than I have no clue what I'm doing with my life here.
Yeah, and I think it's easy to get stuck in a loop of using like similar either techniques or elements or something within a couple of pieces, and then just kind of helping yourself snap out of that is really helpful.
Yeah.
I also want to kind of bring up, like, I completely agree about, allowing yourself just to create something for the sake of it. But also, if that doesn't feel natural, allow yourself to just not do anything creative, or rather take that creativity and put it into something else that isn't your regular work.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Just kind of being honest to be like, right, it's not happening for a few days. I do it quite often. And the more often I allow myself to do it, the less I need it, which sounds backwards, but I guess that's kind of how it works.
No, I think that makes total sense. I think for me it's a bit different in that regard, because I do have let's call it an issue, of having too many projects at the same time, and having to, like, I never have a moment in my life where I can tell myself I don't know what to do with my time. There is always something to work at.
Don't get me wrong, I still have things in to do. It's just a case of like,
yeah, but I know what you're saying. But the thing is, for me, I always have the excuse of, if I can't be creative in this direction, then let's try another one. Because you're working in I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you're working in a very straightforward, very focused creative direction, while I am always jumping between worlds, like between music, between 3D, between my shops, all that kind of stuff. And that never really allows me to just tell myself, it's not going to happen for a few days, because then I'm going to tell myself it doesn't happen in this direction, but then just go for the other one then. And that can that can be a pain in the ass for me to really have a good reason to shut down completely and not do anything creative at all. And
do you ever take like full days, even if it's just one day, just to have a day off?
No. It's
That's
really
crazy to me.
But I don't know, like it doesn't even feel like a reward anymore. Like if I think to myself, today I'm not going to work on anything, it doesn't feel good. Like there is no kind of peaceful aspect to it. The only thing it does is stress me out, because I feel like I'm missing out on the important stuff that I could be doing. Or like I'm missing out on the next software that I'm going to learn, or whatever. Like there's so many reasons. And I've been working like this I have no idea, like the last maybe 5 to 10 years, more or less. And it's become so normal that I don't really question it. And I guess it must sound crazy, but yeah, to me it's pretty normal, and it's actually doable as well.
Yeah, that's fair enough. It's about finding what works for you as an individual. Like when I say about kind of time off, I have some similar feelings, in the sense that when I'm not working, I feel like I should be. But also on certain days, I know for my own mental health, I just need to kind of have a little bit of a break. And when I say a break, I mean, I've got another job as well. I've got another business I own.
Oh, yeah,
so
of course. Actually, sorry about my statement before. I completely forgot about that.
No.
Even though it's fairly new, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's since last November. So kind of balancing time has been interesting, working on that one. Because again, just going back to our previous point, I had no idea how I was going to make that work time-wise. I just kind of went all in and just figured it out on the way.
But how is that going, actually?
It's going good, yeah. So for anyone listening who won't know, I now own a local pet shop and dog groomers, as well as being full-time illustration, as I have been for the past 10 years. And luckily, it's a 10-minute walk from my house. So
that's nice.
Yeah, so I can get there super easy, kind of cover shifts as I need, and all the other background boring stuff. Luckily, my artwork hasn't been affected yet, because I've been, I say I've been doing things with schedule and stuff. I haven't really changed anything, and I think that's testament to what I've learned over the years with time management. I knew that I could kind of roll with the certain pockets of space that I have that I got put into this other business. And again, if I know I've got a morning on shop work, I can have an afternoon or an evening on artwork, and vice versa, and roll with it that way.
So do you and Kim just juggle around, like you're going to be at the shop tomorrow and the day after it's going to be me, or how does it work?
Well, we're both working full time in another job.
Ah, really? Wow.
And the business is in the middle of us.
I thought she's going to do it full time at least.
No. I mean, maybe one day that's an option. So we're both still. She's a dog grooming tutor in one of the biggest schools in the UK. So she's doing that full time. We have 2 staff members that take care of the shop for the most part, and then me and Kim kind of fill in certain gaps of the shifts as and when we need it, or as and when it lines up with Kim's time off with her other job.
So you do actually have staff? Oh man, I have so many questions.
Yeah,
that would be my nightmare.
To be honest, that's the only way it's been able to get off the ground.
I mean, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, if we'd have both quit our full-time jobs and gone all in on the shop, then we wouldn't be talking now. It'd be completely full change of life, and I wasn't ready for that.
Oh no, I hope you'll never be.
So the idea is to aim towards reducing my commission work ever so slightly and creating more time for my personal work.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
I mean, one doesn't have to be without the other, really. Like the luxury we do have as artists, I think, especially nowadays, is to be able to create for yourself, and then always having the option to license stuff for anybody else, like for bands and stuff, which is like really my optimum when it comes to how I would imagine my life if it would be.
I feel like that's the ultimate goal for every freelance.
Yeah, really. Not having to fulfill anybody's wishes, but just getting paid for your work still. That's definitely a high goal.
And that's not to say that I'm against doing commission work. I'm absolutely not.
Yeah, same.
In terms of a lot of the details we've already discussed, sometimes
exactly. I mean, there's always different kinds of upsides to doing commission work, like stuff that brings you out of your comfort zone. Like you have to learn new things. You're forced to do certain things that you wouldn't want to do while working for yourself, all that kind of stuff. But still, like the thought of just not of being completely free of any kind of demands and just working on whatever you want to work and still getting some money in for it. That's definitely, I guess that's pretty much most artists' dream, really. Yeah,
maybe that is the goal. I'm not saying I'm going to be there anytime soon.
Like,
new businesses, take time, but it's definitely the goal. And then it would allow me some more room to kind of pick and choose which commissions I take on. And I certainly don't take on every one that I'm offered. I'm kind of, I don't want to say lucky, but I guess I'm fortunate in the sense that there are certain projects that if I don't align with, I don't feel pressured to take on. And that certainly wasn't the case in the early days. I kind of took on as much as I could, knowing that there was going to be one day that I'd look back and think of all the lessons.
Yeah, sure.
Within those, not that I'm overly happy with every project I put out, as in like the standard wise, but I don't think everyone is. Everyone looks back at their own work and, like we've just said, there's things you change, do different, but it's done. Move on.
Yeah, exactly.
And I kind of bring that forward into however you do things now. So for me, just to kind of tag on the whole usage of time.
Yeah.
Like so luckily I've a dog who's been quite active for a lot of years that needed a lot of walking. And I quickly found out that was very beneficial to my work.
Yeah,
I mean, I've always been
I can imagine
a walker anyway. Yeah. I've always kind of recognized the benefit of being out and about. So he's kind of kept me in check with that. And I run as well, casually, but quite regularly now. And that helps just kind of clear a lot of the brain space. I kind of feel like it's a cleaning of the mental desk type thing.
Yeah, I could definitely use some more of that currently, and I've been trying over the years and kept getting better at it, and then lost it again. And
oh yeah, I do that as well. Like I'm not saying I've been consistent, but it's a tricky one to be consistent with, I think.
Yeah, especially due to the freedom. Like for me, there is always an excuse. There is always an excuse to not go do the healthy thing in that current moment. And I do have my routines now where I do like stuff in the morning, some yoga and some stretching and stuff in the evening as well. Some little workouts here and there, but it's not nearly enough. And my body also keeps yelling at me. My lower back is killing me currently, and it's
the classic lower back issue.
Yeah, fucking hell. I've been battling it ever since the last album mix a year ago, and it's never been worse, really. And I've never done more for my body than currently, but still, apparently it's not enough. And that's really something that anyone should be aware of. Like, it's sitting on your desk all day long is not going to get you old. It's not going to happen, really. And the quicker anyone tries to inherit a proper sports routine in their day, the better and the less problems you're gonna have when you're a bit older. I guess some people also in their 20s are gonna listen to this as well. So just believe us, after 30 it's gonna go downhill quickly. And I mean, obviously not for everybody, but stuff is gonna change. And really, like, if I would have started with this stuff like 10 years earlier, I would be in a much better place right now. Yeah, same. I agree. But I suppose late's better than never type thing. I guess at some point your body is just gonna force you to.
Oh yeah. I feel like those, whatever, like you said, with the stretches, the yoga, and me with the running and the walking, whatever that looks like for people, I always try and recognize it as a pocket of time where you're not on your phone.
Yeah, true.
That's something that kind of aligns with that for me. Like when I'm out running, it's very rare I take my phone with me. And if I ever take my phone walking, it's just so I can get, photo of the dog type thing. I'm really conscious of not bringing the online stuff out with me.
Then you're better at that than me. I'm pretty bad at it.
Yeah. But again, these
I guess it's also a skill.
Yeah.
It's something that you have to develop and really learn, because also it's an addiction. The whole fucking internet is an addiction, really. And even though I tell myself, like, I rarely ever do like the typical doom scrolling for like 20 minutes or some shit. Usually it's a couple of seconds and then I'm done with that, and just like, posting something or whatever. And I think it can also get a huge addiction and become like a huge negative point in one's life.
Can help your burnout as well, or rather,
exactly.
Stop the burnout. It can. I feel like if you're seeing people uploading new stuff or living the artist's life in the most glamorous online way,
and exactly. It's never glamorous though, is it?
No, but a lot of it's kind of tuned to look like that, and we all know it isn't.
And artists can be very, very creative in setting up their online presence to be extremely glamorous, when in reality it's something much different.
Well, yeah, and I understand it, because they wanted to create something that people want to see. I understand that.
And obviously you want to resonate success and healthy stability and all this shit, but we're all struggling. There is no one that is not struggling, especially artists. Yeah. So I think if you can kind of minimize, or even like if you're in those pockets of that kind of way of thinking where, everyone's doing great but me, or whatever, however that looks for you, just consciously taking the time off from social media or whatever it is you need to do. All the jealousy and all the... there is a lot of bad feelings that can come up when scrolling through Instagram as an artist. And
it can make you overly sensitive to a lot of things.
Yeah, and also there's good stuff, of course. I mean, it can be inspiring, see other people's works, and like, of course, and you can learn about new tools or like whatever. There's a lot of good stuff in it too, but I'd say it's very easy.
How you're digesting it, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And it's very easy to get lost in the negative and to get to let the negative become very overwhelming. And it's not always a conscious thing. It doesn't always happen consciously. Of course not.
No.
It just builds up in the back of your head, and there's routines that build up, very unhealthy routines. And I think it's important to be aware of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and it's also important to kind of not beat yourself up for feeling like it either. Because a lot of the modern things are kind of going against us generally, and we have to kind of push back.
Yeah, that is a good point. That is a good point. Like Instagram nowadays, social media nowadays is basically made for people to hate themselves and hate others as well. Like it's
made for reactions.
Yeah, but
that's it.
I think there is a lot of uncontrolled rage that is really a very, very central, very driving force behind any kind of social media platforms nowadays. Yeah. And that is extremely dangerous to a healthy mind and a healthy body, obviously, as well.
Yeah, it's the biggest kind of outlet. It's even bigger than telly now. TV used to be the thing, your adverts, your kind of political statements, whatever, and it's all online now.
It's so much worse than TV, though. Like
it is.
Than TV was and could be ever, because it was so limited in its possibilities. I mean, Instagram basically knows all the stuff you like and knows all the stuff you hate, which is really something, like, if you think about that is something extremely scary, I think.
Oh yeah, and it also knows what to consider showing you that's similar.
Exactly. I mean, that's the whole point, isn't it?
Although I say that, I get videos of some horrific things, and I actively stay away from anything negative that I can online.
Yeah.
So randomly it gets it wrong, and it's just like, why on earth is that showing up? And luckily, I'm not like a 15, 16-year-old that's super sensitive to a lot of that now.
But the thing is, I'm absolutely convinced that it's not made for you to tell it what you want to see. It's made for you for figuring out what you want to see, but then showing you whatever is going to push, the whole back catalog of whatever's going on with this kind of stuff. I mean,
it shows you enough positive things that you want to see to keep you going back.
Yeah, exactly.
Something bad.
And then just leave the outrage in very nice little places here and there, just sprinkling it on here and there. And I've been telling you about, I think it was with you that I talked about it when I tried to get a bit more active on Threads, like this Facebook Twitter alternative. A couple of months ago, I started to be a bit more active on there, and I tried to get the algorithm to only show me art. Mm-hmm. And no politics, nothing of that stuff, because it's already way too overwhelming for me, this whole political shit. And I just wanted one platform where it's not going to affect me. And it took like 2 weeks or so where I actively tried and actively, blocked out all the political stuff that came into my feed. Mm-hmm. It did nothing. Like, after 4 weeks, it was all the way politics and AI hatred, which is something I consider to be a good thing. But still, like, I didn't want to see that in my feed. I just wanted to see art that makes me happy when I see it, makes me feel something creative or something constructive, and
where you can trust that you're going to see what you want to see.
Exactly, and it failed so horribly. Like, there was nothing left of that after 2 weeks, which just tells you, like, there is nothing good to be expected ever from any of these platforms. Like, nothing healthy at all. It's all outrage. It's all unhealthy addiction, and it just wants to bombard you with all this fucking insanity that makes you addicted and keeps you getting back and back and go down this fucking rabbit hole of insanity. And I mean, that's really it. That's really all there is to it.
I had a very similar experience on Blue Sky, where you could kind of adjust your feed, and I did that, and it completely ignored me, and I stopped using it.
Yeah, me too. After
Okay,
like
don't
2
give me
weeks.
the option and then completely disregard it. Like, I'm not stupid. I can see.
Yeah,
I think
it's such a fucking really like it's so bizarre, the whole thing, when you think about it. The longer I think about it, it's just fucking mental.
I think the only part of social media that I use regularly that I feel is working as it should is YouTube. In terms of recommendations and things like that, all my recommendations seem to line up, and I can see why it's been put there. I don't get any like random like war videos or animal abuse videos like I do on Instagram, and I'm just like, that's the only place I can go and kind of trust that it's going to work as it should, other than the 6 million adverts every video. Like,
well, that is exactly the thing. I'm never logged into my accounts on there because it's the only way to escape the stupid ads. And
right.
I think if you're not logged in and you got ad blockers on your browser, then it's not going to show you the ads. Like, I never get ads when I listen to music on YouTube while working, and that's the reason why I'm never logged in. So that's also the reason why I never pay attention to the recommendations, because it's usually just completely random. Obviously, politics and the usual shit that it would show you randomly anyway. So can't really
they just
speak to
show
that.
the same shit out to everyone and kind of it's like they show you it, you start to react, and then just like walk off and just leave that with you. And I learned that with like a lot of the news on TV. Like, I just not put it on because I just carry that around with me throughout the day. Like,
same.
Thanks for that.
I mean, I've been really actively watching stuff like Seth Meyers last year, like a couple of those late night comedian shows, which are very political, in a good way. I think, like, most of the time in a good way, because they speak a lot of truth and they open a lot of eyes, in my opinion. But also, like, seeing this stuff every day and actively following all the latest fucking shit this or that person did, like, it really wore me down. And especially after last year's outcomes and all the stuff that's going on currently, it's just, I had to stop myself following all this crap, because you can't change anything, especially not from here. I can't. No. And B, it's not going to do anything else than just fucking occupy your mind and your body and your healthiness, and not in a good way, obviously. And it's just not worth it. Like, the insanity is going to be there anyway, and humanity is modern society is such a fucking absurd being, and it's not going to change. Like, it's just going to get worse. And I think, in my opinion, nowadays, the best thing you can do is just stay away as far as possible, if you're sure you can't do any difference. And I mean,
just make a mental note of everything you're taking in a day-to-day life, whether it's visually, audibly, anything, and just recognize if it benefits you and your life and the people around you, and then encourage that. And if it doesn't, and like you say, if you have no active way of helping, then all you're going to do is carry that with you.
Yeah,
and
it's just
remind yourself.
It's just going to fucking. Yeah, it's going to poison your mind. It's not going to do anything else apart from that. And I had to learn that, really. And I guess
you're not going to wake up in the next morning and have a reset and start again. You carry things with you.
Yeah, exactly. And the further it goes, the more insanities you hear, the bigger, like or the lower the standards get. And it's just, it's
I think
it's not worth carrying it around with you all the time.
That's it. Yeah, absolutely. Unless you're a political artist, there's zero inspiration in a lot of that, and you can't bring that back to the desk.
I mean, I guess in some way, we're all kind of political in one way or the other. Like, concerning AI, for example, that is definitely a political thing. If artists talk about the use of AI, stuff like that to me is a political issue.
In what sense?
In a sense,
I've never thought of it like that. That's all.
Well, it's a sense of modern society development. Like it shapes modern society. It's a very central point of development in technology that's gonna be probably one of the biggest developments of nowadays humanity and or like of humanity as far as it goes back in the next couple of 50 to 100 years. And in that way, it's totally political. Like there's no question about it. But I think political artist is something very specific. If you call yourself that, I know a few good examples. But yeah, I totally agree. If you're not actively putting very obvious political statements into your art, then you should probably try and distance yourself as far as possible.
If you're not,
as you can take it with your mental health.
Yeah, definitely. If you can healthily intake all that and produce something positive from it, then fair play to you. I'm envious. I really am. But unfortunately, we don't all have that. And the way, at least I certainly work, is if something's not kind of benefiting my mental state in any way, I'm definitely not bringing that into my work. And I've just learned that over the years that it just gives me absolutely nothing other than anxiety. And I understand, like in a world like today, I'm not trying to avoid every negative in the world. Certainly not. That's impossible. But I can definitely control what I take in and what I pay attention to and why I pay attention to it.
And what you let in as well.
Yeah, exactly. In the people around you, everything. So I think one of the important things to loop it back to kind of looking at the signs of burnout and things is just make a mental note of all these things that kind of maybe not cause it, but definitely don't help it. And everyone's going to have a different list. You know, everyone's their own person, especially creative people. Yeah. They all have different outlets and different kind of ways to let off steam. And just find yours, find a little list of yours, and kind of as and when you need, just pick one or pick a few or whatever it is, and then trust that when you come back to your desk or your studio or whatever, trust that having that time and that conscious presence to kind of take that time away will benefit your work, and be open to that, and certainly don't feel bad for feeling those things. And I don't really know what else I can kind of add to that, really.
Yeah, I think one point we haven't discussed yet is definitely an important one for me, and definitely one I had to learn as well over the last couple of years, is to not take stuff to bed with you. Not take the work of the day to bed with you, because especially artists who are like wrapped up in their creative world like 24/7 usually, like I am most of the times, and the more I work, the more I am. And at some point I had to learn through the COVID years, I was just working way too much, and I still am, but I found over the years like certain parameters that work well, that don't fuck up my sleep. And I found that just finishing creative work around like just before dinner in the evening, and not going to pick it up afterwards again, that is a hugely beneficial thing that I had to learn, because I would oftentimes during the COVID years, I would just go right back to work after eating, because I just felt like, nothing's stopping me. I still have energy, and the grind and blah blah blah, all this fucking crap. And I had so many sleepless nights because of this practice, and it's so unhealthy. Especially sleeplessness can become such a huge monolith of unhealthiness, in connection with so many other things, and it makes everything worse. And I found like sleep is one of the central pillars of my health, and I nowadays I have to protect that with everything I got, because if I don't, then I'm gonna pay a huge price. And so yeah, that's something I definitely learned. Whenever you can, just take a couple of hours before going to bed, between working and going to bed, and just do something that has nothing to do with your work. That is something that is a big lesson I learned over the last years.
It's the equivalent to going for a run and then just running straight to bed and expecting to get to sleep.
Yeah.
You need to come in, like stop, wind down, do what you need. Yeah. We don't have a switch. I think people who are constantly in that creative way of thinking, there's no switch. We have to actively put that in place. And I completely agree in terms of like not working right up until bed, because your body's kind of it's in work mode still.
Yeah.
So
and it's funny, you know, every time I keep doing it, like there are like certain moments where I just can't resist the what's the word?
Eagerness.
Yeah, whatever. Like, yeah, let's say eagerness of what you're working on, because it's so much fun. Or like you just made
a nice feeling.
Yeah, you just made a huge step, and the thing works so well in that moment, and you have to interrupt it by eating dinner and stuff, and and then you have to stop, and you really want to have just one more look at it. And then sometimes I would just open up a project for like a couple of minutes, and then sometimes I would really just slip into do another few tweaks and shit.
And then 3 hours later, you're still working on it.
Yeah, exactly. And every time I do that, I instantly regret it again in the night, because I'm just going to be awake for like, I don't know, until 3 a.m. or some shit. It's just really like...
Yeah, you don't always feel it in the moment, do you?
Yeah, and the mind just doesn't shut up. It just can't shut down. And yeah, it's just, I mean, you just need your fucking sleep. It's that simple. Can't get around it.
Look after your back and get your sleep. That's the advice we give. So for me, that eagerness shows up first thing in the morning, where I'm halfway through a piece, and usually it's personal work, where I wake up naturally like an hour earlier. And I wake up, sort the dog out, make a tea or a coffee or something, and I'm straight upstairs. Whereas normally I like to give myself like half an hour in the morning just to kind of not rush into work.
Yeah.
But
I know
certain moments like that, I'm like, no, I don't need to wait. I'm going straight in. I like those moments. They don't happen every single time, but they definitely feel good when they happen.
Yeah, same here. There's nothing greater than just being very satisfied with the work you're doing.
Yeah, you know you're on the right track within your process then.
Exactly.
That's
you've overcome
every piece.
Yeah, and you've overcome these all the obstacles that made it look like shit and didn't made it feel not right in some weird way that you couldn't put your finger on. And
yes.
So, when there's that click, and then you're just completely absorbed by it. And I oftentimes, when I wake up in the morning and I'm in that mode, and I have to tell myself like, you need to do your fucking yoga routine now. And it's always just like, fucking hell, I don't want to do this shit. I just want to go back to work. But yeah, again, then if I ignore it, then I'm going to pay the price at some point again. So yeah.
Yeah, because the work will still be there after you've done your yoga.
Of course.
No one's going to take it away from you.
But that's what I meant earlier. Like, there is always a good excuse to not do the healthy routine. Yeah,
it's easy done. Definitely. There's a point I was going to bring up, because I'm kind of glad that we're ending on like a more positive note if we're going to kind of wrap this up soon.
Yeah, true.
Again, back to similar points. It's definitely healthy to recognize the fun parts. Like, we can get so bogged down in the work that we need to do, mental, physical, and kind of the plates that we spin. You have to remind yourself why we do it and all the fun little moments, and kind of take a a step back and look at actually what we're doing, and I think that applies on whatever part of the path you're on, whether you're just starting out, whether we've been doing it for 10 years. That same applies. Just kind of get your head out of the sand a little bit, recognize what you're doing, enjoy it for as much as you can, because in the thick of it, when things aren't going to plan or you're stressed, you're going to need that balance. And I feel like if you allow those moments, you can kind of roll with the not so fun parts a little easier, and kind of find a balance of rocking between the two. And then even like the mundane spaces in the middle, roll with them as well. Mm-hmm. And before you know it, you're a couple of years in and you found your rhythm.
Yeah, and I think also it's important to, if the bumps are there, if you run into a wall, which is happening regularly, I think it's also important not to indulge too much in them, but instead just accept it without judging it too much, without judging yourself too much. And sometimes it's just half a day and it's over before you know it. And I feel that a lot of the times when I had a day like that today, really, where I felt like I'm not up for working at anything. Like nothing feels right at the moment. I got like client stuff that I have to finish soon, and I just wasn't in the mood at all. And just opened up a client project. I did a couple of tweaks, and suddenly the thing looked fucking great. Mm-hmm. And it just...
Yeah, you were open to that.
Yeah, and it's oftentimes it's just like that. Like, just don't think about it too much. Don't overthink it. Just instead, whatever you're doing, maybe grab a pen or like, open up a project or whatever you're doing. Just pick up something and see if it doesn't do anything for you. And if it doesn't, then that's fine. Then just do something else maybe. But sometimes it really just needs a little spark, and that little spark of reward that you get when you do a couple of tweaks and stuff suddenly aligns.
Yeah.
And that can be all you need, really. Like sometimes it just it just lights the spark, and there you go. Like I finished that piece then and started another one, which already looks good as well. So sometimes it can really work out well, and a bad day doesn't always have to be a bad day. Maybe it's just a bad morning or a bad hour or something.
Yeah. We're not wired to be 100% efficient all the time. I read a short quote or a statement years ago that I constantly have in mind, and it's let go or be dragged. And that applies to everything we've just spoke about, even the good parts. Don't get too attached to it being always fun, because unfortunately doing it full-time freelance isn't always fun. That's just the nature of it. Let go of that idea, but then also let go of the idea that it's always going to be hard work and not fun.
Exactly.
That's just not the case. And in the moments where it's not working, just let go. Just, accept that.
It's still going to be there the next day. And
don't add that pressure on yourself. And then when it's going well and you're in the flow of it, just recognize it and just go with it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that sounds like a good point to end it here.
Yeah.
All right. I'm glad we could bring up a couple of important points, I think, and hopefully
people can learn some things.
Yeah, take some positive stuff with you.
As always, we're open to suggestions of subjects or questions or just anything you can think of that, we might be able to give some insight on, or anything you're interested in. Leave the comment or, anything like that. And any shares, likes and things are always appreciated.
Exactly.
And if you made it this far into these 3 episodes, I think now, then we're grateful.
Absolutely.
We're looking forward to getting into it in future episodes as well.
Nothing to add here.
No, cool.
Have a good night, everyone.
See you next time, guys.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.